Now, I've been diagnosed with aggressive B-cell lymphoma 3 times over the last 8 years. And one of them was stage 4 brain cancer. So I can tell you from firsthand experience that for most cancers today, it's just not as bad to have as you may think. Now, I don't want to be too cavalier about it because there are still cancers out there for which the outcomes are not great. But oncologists today will tell you that most of their patients are now going to make it. They're going to survive. And that's pretty good news because I got to tell you, the treatments are still grueling, but it's a lot easier to go through them when the doctors are telling you they think you're going to be okay in the end. And I have been through some very grueling treatments. Here's a picture of me with my son Maxwell when I was going through my brain cancer. I'm the one on your right. Funny thing about this picture is that I hated taking pictures when I was sick. So the only reason I took this one is because I thought I was looking good that day. Now, this cancer was a battle, but I was still able to find a doctor who could say, you know, there's been some advances in the last couple of years, and I think I got this. I think you're going to be okay. And I was. He was right. And to do it, he gave me a lot of chemo, obviously. A lot of that was experimental. I had a bone marrow transplant. And they put this into my neck right here because I was able to use my own stem cells. So they pulled my stem cells out and used those when it was time for the bone marrow transplant. And I even had to have a hole drilled in my skull right here so that they could put a catheter into my brain and pour the chemo directly into the middle of it. That one was a little crazy. But it was more crazy when a few days later, the doctors came in, they put my scans up on the board, and they were showing me where the memory centers of my brain were growing at this really accelerated rate, and they just couldn't figure out why. That last little bit's not true. But wouldn't it have been so cool when they put the chemo in my brain if it was turning me into a superhero? Now that would have made having cancer, brain cancer, completely worthwhile. But unfortunately, nothing happened. Not being a superhero was definitely the biggest disappointment that I had the whole time I had cancer. Now, I show you these things that I went through for a couple of reasons. One, because, well, I happen to like sympathy, and I think this makes me look very sympathetic. You know, that is, by the way, one of the silver linings in the cancer cloud. You can get away with things when you have cancer that you could never get away with if you didn't. You know, if I'm in the supermarket and there's a long line, you know, I've got cancer. People just can't get out of the way fast enough to get me right to the front of the line. So, you know, it's like a credit card, a cancer card, and everybody takes it. It works all over the world, you know. So having cancer is not all bad. It has its benefits too. But I also want you to know that I have experience with all of this when I tell you that there are things that you can do to help a friend go through one of the most brutal parts about having cancer, something that the doctor can't fix. And that's the isolation, the detachment from everyone, everything that you know. Let me explain. When you get sick like that, you begin living this kind of parallel life, separate from your regular life. And all the people taking care of you, the doctors, the nurses, your family, people that are your caregivers, they're all helping you in this parallel life. But there's nothing connecting you to your regular life. And that's why I'm here today. You all need to know that friends are the bridge that connects you to this regular life. But unfortunately, what happens is that after about the first month or two, most cancer patients will tell you that people were great for a while, but then they disappear. And it's hard to figure out why. I mean, in my case, I realized it couldn't have been me. Look at me. I'm adorable. So, no, what really happens is that your lives aren't passing together anymore. You're doing different things, obviously, and people's lives go on. But it's also because people get scared. They get scared of the illness, and they also just don't know what to do to help you. But it actually is a terrible thing when you feel like you've been forgotten about. Because what happens is the more time you spend away from everybody that's your friend, this parallel life that you're receding into grows in longer and longer distance away from this real life, the regular life that you're used to. and then you get better. And you're left to try to connect the bridge all the way back to your regular life all by yourself. And that is a long, exhausting process. It takes months, years, and some people that I've talked to say that they really never got back. And it doesn't have to be like that, because there are a lot of things that you really can do that are small that will make a very big difference in someone's life when they're sick like this. So I'm going to talk about some of those. But first, I want to help you deal with how to act around somebody when they first learn that they've got cancer, because everyone handles that very different emotionally. You don't have to act all dark and gloomy, at least not in my case. I'd been feeling lousy for so long that I was more relieved than anything else that they had finally found something. So when they told me I had cancer, I was like, well, that's great. I'm not going crazy. It is something. So, but not everyone's going to feel that way. So you can't go into the room with them and say, congratulations, you must be thrilled that you've got cancer. You can't. What you want to do is you go in there and you just say, hey, how are you feeling about your diagnosis? Because the way that they act with that question, the way that they respond, their words, their mannerisms, that's going to lead you into directly how you should act, what you should say, what you should be doing next. Now, here's what most people did or said to me when they wanted to help me when I first got sick. If I can do anything, please let me know. Well, the first tip I want to give you all is that this is not helpful, because all this does is give a sick, overwhelmed person one more thing to do. Find something for you to do. And if you don't, then all of a sudden they're gone thinking, well, I tried, but they didn't want any help. And you multiply that times the dozens of people that are also saying the same thing to you, and it becomes pretty clear early on that there's no help coming. So instead, let's just change a few words around here. Let's figure out and say, I can do something. I'm gonna figure out how to help you, but I'll be back. I'll let you know what I can do. What are some of those things so you can make good on that commitment? Well, one thing is you can just text them regularly. That's really easy, and it can be impersonal. I know it sounds like it if you send just one. But if you send a bunch of them over time, once a week, even just once a month, they do become meaningful. All you gotta do is say, hey, I want you to know I'm thinking about you. That's it. It can even be the same message every time, but keep sending them even if they're not replying to you, especially if they're not replying to you. It will make a difference. It's such an easy thing to do. And at a minimum, just do this. Because when I was holed up in a room and a message like that came across my phone, it made me feel less alone and more connected, even if it was just for a little bit. Give them a handwritten note, not a Hallmark get-well card with their signature on it. Really, write them a note, a real letter. And if you even consider taking a bunch of stationery when you see them and have them write some notes out to people themselves, thank you notes, or just things that are just to reach out to friends. That will keep them connected in a much different way on a number of levels. Visit as much as you possibly can. I know this one seems obvious, but I gotta tell you, the meaning of these visits have changed a lot in the last 10 or 15 years, because just that long ago, the visit was to say goodbye to your friend. But today, it's about keeping them connected to the world that they're gonna be joining you back in pretty soon. So the more you can visit, the better off. Now, when you ask them, don't say, hey, when's a good time for me to come by? That's a little like, if I can do anything, let me know. It's too big a question. Just say, I want to come by Tuesday at 6 p.m. Is that all right? That's a question that they can answer. If you want to bring something, it's not, can I bring you anything? Same problem. It's, hey, I'm bringing you a pizza or an In-N-Out burger. Is there anything you don't want on it? That is a question, again, easy to answer. When they're not up for a visit, which is possible, and it happens often, they're just not feeling up to seeing anybody, you can still help, because you can just say to them, I'm gonna bring dinner to your house. I'm gonna leave it at your front door at 6 o'clock. So if you go out there at 6:05, it's gonna be there, and you won't talk to anybody, no pressure at all. That's a friend that's getting it. That's a friend that's thinking about them. That's help, and that's connectivity. All right, now when you visit this person, there's a good chance that they'll be sleeping. Don't leave, because when you're sick, you don't really sleep the same way. You more like drift in and out every few hours. So instead, grab a book, sit down next to them, and wait for them to see if they wake up. I'll tell you that most of the time when you wake up over and over and over again, you're alone with the reality of your situation. So to wake up and have a friendly friend there right in front of you makes a very big difference. It's so uplifting. It happened to me twice only in all these years, and it was very uplifting. So wait as long as you can if that's the case. Cancer is not contagious, but it can feel like it when you're sick like that because nobody wants to touch you. They stay on the other side of the room. I'm telling you right now that if someone's got cancer, it's okay to touch them. You can't take your hand and just put it on their arm for a moment or two. They don't get that a lot, and that contact is very important, and it will stay with them for a lot longer than just your visit. Create an online game night once a month, say the third Thursday of every month. And this is an opportunity, if you organize it for them to have something on the calendar to look forward to every month where they're gonna get to hang out with all their friends, a lot of them at least, and everybody can join in because all they gotta do is sign on or get on FaceTime or Skype. Easy to do. Help them get caught up. One of the problems, even though you're lying around, you don't feel like doing your text messages, emails, you don't feel like going through your regular mail, your social media. So if you can just help them when you're sitting down with them, get their phone and reply to stuff for them, engage them, get them caught up, that's about as close as they're gonna get to feeling like they're back in their regular life, if you can do that. Really important. Create a Spotify playlist. Another easy thing to do. Call it Cancer Time or something. And you put their music that they'll like and their podcasts and some audio books, things that they'll want to listen to, and keep it current. Add things to it from time to time so they'll feel like they're staying up to date like everyone else is. Finally, it's okay to tell them how you feel. We don't live, thankfully, in a day and age anymore where a father shakes his son's hand as he goes off to war. We can do better than that. And I'll tell you, when I had a friend that said, hey, I want you to know I love you, buddy, it mattered to me because it made me feel like I mattered. And that made a difference. Look, these are just a couple of ideas here that I came up with. But I'll tell you something, you know this person best. And so if they like guacamole, well, get some avocados and make them some. But it's gonna take some initiative and some work on your part to be a friend when someone really needs you like this. Everyone here, if they don't already, is going to know somebody soon that has cancer. And they're going to get better in all likelihood. Whatever you do, don't abandon them. Be that bridge that keeps them connected to their regular life. Be their friend. Thank you.